Jigsaw. So the final chapter, we have made it, guys. We have reviewed all 7 of these movies and we are on to our final review in this review series. At least I wish I could say that, but unfortunately I can't because there is another movie following this, and whenever they put, okay, here's the thing, whenever they put final or last in a title of a horror movie, it's never going to be the final movie in a franchise. They're always going to find some way to resurrect the franchise by either making a sequel, a reboot, or a prequel of sorts. It's like they've done that to death now since the 80s. That has been like the horror gimmick, is to put final in it, and there's always going to be a movie following it. They did that with Friday the 13th. They did that with Nightmare on Elm Street. They did that with Wrong Turn, and they've done it with Saw. I'm trying to get this review done quickly so I can go watch Jigsaw and hopefully watch that and do my review for that tonight. So I'm going to try and get through this review as quickly as I can. But yeah, if you guys didn't notice, I recently got a Spiral poster right there. Do a better look. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, there's Chris Rock on the poster, and yeah, it's a really gorgeous looking poster. I love it. So yeah, so glad I can have a Saw poster finally hanging up in my room, because yeah, I think it's a really cool looking poster. There's this spiral on it. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Spiral, I think that is a really cool poster, and the one where Chris Rock is looking at the dead body on the ground, I think that's probably my favourite poster out of the entire marketing campaign for that movie. But that poster I think is pretty sick with just Chris Rock on it, and then around the spiral there's like Samuel Jackson. Picked that up today, so yeah, pretty cool. So anyways, yeah, so I was looking forward to watching Saw the final chapter, because this one is probably my second most watched installment in this franchise, and I know a lot of people will disagree on that, because a lot of people hate this movie, and I think the reason why people hate this movie is the way they handled Dr. Gordon's return to the franchise after all this time. He's making his comeback into this franchise, and I think that's where people are very divided on, because I think a lot of people don't like the idea of Dr. Gordon working for Jigsaw like he does in this movie, and like for myself, like it never really bothered me, because like just look at Amanda, just look at Hoffman, and just look at all of his other apprentices on Jigsaw's game, and they came out as a new person and looking at life in a new light, and leaving all the depressed and negative side of life like in the background, because through doing the trap, he's teaching people to live their life and live it to the full, and and kind of like live every day like it's your last day on earth. That's the lesson that he's trying to teach them there, that their life is worth living. So yeah, like on that end, I'm not too bothered by it, because it's like Dr. Gordon was once in Jigsaw's game, and Jigsaw, he like with Amanda Hoffman, like he brought them in as family, and Amanda views like John Kramer as a father. So like I think it does make sense. So I'm not too bothered by like Dr. Gordon's comeback to this franchise. Or to see Carrie Elways come back and reprise his role as Dr. Gordon. Like I really liked him in the first movie, and to see him come back to finish off what he started. Anyways, let's get into Saw 7, the final chapter. So this movie opens with a recap from the ending of the first movie, where Jigsaw rises off the ground and he goes over to the door and he shuts it, and he's like, game over. And then you just hear Adam's horrific scream, which that is some great acting there. That is probably one of my favorite horror movie screams because like it feels so real. Like that's like yeah, like that is a great scream. And then this Saw 7, this was going to be the movie where all of our questions were going to be answered. And one of the main questions that this movie was going to clear up to the fans was what the hell happened to Dr. Gordon after he left that bathroom at the end of the first Saw? Because Dr. Gordon, he has not been seen or mentioned in the past 6 sequels. So yeah, we have not seen Dr. Gordon since the ending of the first Saw. So this movie was going to show us exactly what he's been up to, what his master plan is, what he's been up to since he left the bathroom at the end of that first movie, and yeah, we were going to see what he's been up to underneath the covers, if you want to put it that way. So this movie opens with Dr. Gordon burning his wound on a steam pipe, which is pretty cool looking. This would have taken place seconds or minutes after the ending of the first movie. And even his clothes are the exact same from the ending of the first movie, which I love those little details in this Saw movie. Just like the minor details in this franchise is what makes it great, which that's not going to be the first time I mention that in this review. I do have a point in the supporting group later on where they bring back the exact same actors to play bodies in this franchise. And that was in Saw 5, I believe, where you see the exact same actor from The Rack, and he's just playing a body. Like, he has no dialogue, he's just there and just like, and just having the same actor back, like, that's what makes this franchise amazing. That is commitment there. Like, to go to set for one day, have no dialogue and just be there as a body, that's what makes this franchise so amazing. So yeah. Okay, and then our opening trap to this movie, this is very different in the way where Tina's trap is taking place in public, and this is our first time where Jigsaw has been taken publicly. Like, we're seeing one of his live traps out in public. Like, I don't know how John Kramer or how Detective Hoffman would have set this trap up, because if you set this up at midnight and when no one was around, you've got to think about security cameras. Surely he was seen on a security camera chatting these people up, having all this equipment there without people looking, but then also capturing Tina and her 2 boyfriends. This trap would have at least taken a couple of days to set up. But yeah, anyways, this is our first trap. I'm not going to look at it too much in detail, but this is our first trap that takes place in public, which this is a first time for the Saw franchise, because in all the other sequels, the traps have either been in a basement or a room of sorts. That John Kramer is world renowned, and that his Jigsaw name is mentioned quite a lot in this franchise, on the news, and you hear the police talking about what he's doing, and the public knows probably minor details from just news reports you see, and so Jigsaw, he's decided to take his game publicly, which I think that's a pretty cool approach for the final film in this franchise, and it's something different, it's something cool. So let's see. Okay, so this is the worst public crowd ever. So there's maybe 200 to 250 people standing at this window, maybe more. And majority of them are just standing there watching people getting hurt. And as I was watching the movie, I was just thinking, do these people not have anything else better to do today than stand here and watch people hurt themselves? Like, they aren't even calling the police. Like, if you saw this type of scenario, like, you would call the police, you would be panicking, and these people are just standing there watching it like it's entertainment. And oh wow, it's just like, yeah, this is the worst crowd ever. And so Tina used her boyfriends to buy her drugs and do illegal stuff. And this trap is between the three of them. Like, one of the three has to die, and so the boyfriends come to conclusion that Tina isn't worth it. And so they the two boyfriends. I don't know their names. I didn't take any notes on their names because I didn't hear them mentioned. But I'm just going to refer to them as two boyfriends because that's all I got from that scene. And so the two boyfriends, they come to the conclusion that Tina isn't worth it, and that Tina's been like using them, and that because like Tina, like, she does everything in her will to survive. Like, she says I love you to her first boyfriend, and then the same compliment to her second boyfriend, and like they're within distance apart. So it's like, and it's very obvious that Tina is using them. Like, it's so obvious. And like Tina, like, I hate those types of people that only go out with a certain person, either for their money or to buy them stuff. Like, I absolutely hate those people. And like to do illegal stuff, like, that's one thing. Like, Tina won't be the one getting in trouble. Like, the boyfriends would take the blame only because Tina is going out with them. Like, that would be the only reason why they would be the ones getting in trouble. So in one of these shots that we see of the crowd, I noticed a grandmother in the background filming the trap, and I could not stop laughing. Like, it's so dumb. Like, at what this crowd that this is what they find enjoyment in, that they find enjoyment in seeing real people get killed. Like, this is a really fucked up crowd if they like seeing this stuff, and especially filming it. Like, that is crossing so many wrong lines there. So and that the grandmother doesn't even bother to call the police, and instead she she films the trap she can put it like on the internet and get like 100K views. Like, seriously, like, it's so, like, to me it's so selfish that this is what people would do. That's what happened. Like, people do record fights, and like they don't even bother helping out, and it's just like, and like when I see those types of videos, I'm just like, what has society come of? In a scenario like this, like, you would much rather film the event than actually save someone's life, which would be much more meaningful to them than letting them die and letting that video that you filmed go viral. That is sick to me. And then the two boyfriends, they say, "We're breaking up with you, Tina." Like that is a great line. And then Tina, like, there's a razor blade below her, and the in the rope or the chain that she's attached to, like, it lowers her down to the razor blade, and you see her get cut in half. Like that. That's a great trap there. What else? And then the title sequence, it says Saw 3D, and I have a rant with this. So this movie, the whole gimmick behind this movie, even if you look at the trailers from 2010 of Saw 7, this movie was marketed as 3D, and like that was the big gimmick for this movie. And like the 2000s and the 2010s, I believe, were the 2 years where 3D was big. When you're watching this movie in 2D, you're technically watching a movie that was made for 3D. So there's a lot of scenes in this movie where there's body parts and there's a lot of explosions where the body parts are being thrown at the screen, and you can tell that it was filmed exclusively for 3D. Like there was no other purpose and there was no need for that. And it's just when you watch it, like it's so noticeable that this movie, that they were relying so much on the 3D gimmick. There's other scenes in the movie where like warehouses like blow up and parts of that warehouse are thrown right at the camera, and there's no other goddamn purpose for it besides it being a part of the 3D gimmick that this movie was marketed as. And even in the title sequence, it says Saw 3D. It doesn't say Saw the Final Chapter, which is the subtitle of this movie. But yeah, this movie is just called Saw 3D. So I don't know why they decided to call it Saw 3D. Like, I hate that title. Like, Saw the Final Chapter sounds much more of a fitting subtitle, even though this isn't the last movie, which I'm not going on that rant again because I've already ranted about final chapter in horror movies and shit. So yeah, it's just like, why isn't the movie called Saw the Final Chapter? When you click on this movie and the title sequence comes up on the screen, it's like it should be called Saw the Final Chapter, not Saw 3D, because like when you're watching it, because like that's how majority of people I'm sure would watch it now, is in 2D. And it's so I find that so lazy that they did not call this movie, like even if it's called like Saw 3D the Final Chapter, at least have another title below it instead of just Saw 3D. Like that's the official title for the movie and all that. So yeah, I don't like that title. But anyways, yeah, that's, I'm not going to rant on that anymore. Yeah, and then at the end of Saw 6, yeah, we saw that Hoffman survived the reverse bear trap, and yeah, and that like half of his face is hanging off. And so yeah, this movie picks up directly where Saw 6 left off, where we see Hoffman. He gets out of the room. And he puts the reverse bear trap down, and like Jill is just a few inches away, and she's trying to like be as quiet as possible. And yeah, and so Hoffman, he goes back to the warehouse and he stitches his face back together. Jill is in the interrogation room. She's under interrogation by the police, and she tells the cops about Detective Hoffman, how Detective Hoffman is working for Jigsaw, and he could be the cause of the past few games in the past few sequels of this franchise. And so that's when what's his name? I wrote it down here somewhere. What was it? Gibson. There we go. And that's when Gibson and his police crew go out and they try to find Detective Hoffman and put an end to his madness. Introduced to Bobby Dagan. I sorry if I got your last name wrong there. But yeah, his introduction is he's on a news channel and he's talking about how he survived Jigsaw's trap, and he's talking about like the feelings, and he's and his language is really strong, and so like everyone around him is buying it, and he's talking about it as if it was real, because he wrote a book called Survive, and talking about his experience in Jigsaw's game, and so he has this widespread of popularity, and I think it was because of Bobby that other victims that have survived, well, the very few Jigsaw victims that have survived his game, then came forward to say that they are a survivor as well, and speak their story at what they lost, but then also what they learnt through his game. And yeah, I think it's a really strong introduction for his character. She walks out to the car, and on her way out to the car, she sees a jigsaw bike in the middle of the road, surrounded by police cars, and the jigsaw bike is lit by the police cars, and there's some cool atmosphere in that scene. And then Hoffman comes out with the pig mask on, and captures Joyce. So yeah, that's a pretty cool scene. And then are there any Linkin Park fans here? Because Chester Bennington, he has a small little cameo or little role in this movie in one of Jigsaw's traps, where Evan, I believe his character's name was, Evan, where Evan and his friends, they are all racist, and so they're all three. Wait, one, two. Actually, no, all the four of them. So, because there's one under the wheel. There's, I believe that's his girlfriend. I believe, I might be wrong on that. And then there's one behind the car where there's this chain attached to his lip and his two arms. And then there's one in front of him. That when the car gets going, he gets hit by the car. So yeah, the four of them. And so yeah, that's the reason why the four of them are put into this trap. And so Evan, really, this is his trap. If Evan doesn't complete this trap in 60 seconds, him and his friends will die. So he has to pull his back away from the chair. And I was paying close attention to this trap, and I'm pretty sure it's super glue that's holding him to this chair. There's no chains, there's no staples holding him back. At least not that I saw. And so yeah, he has to pull his back away from the chair, so his back will be disconnected from his body, his back skin will be disconnected. And so his friends' lives are in Evan's hands. So yeah, he has to complete this in 60 seconds, and then the girl underneath the car, when Evan leans forward, he's stepping on the gas pedal, so the car's going maybe around 80 to 90 kilometers. So when the car drops on her, there's a lot of weight. You see her face get swiped back, which is pretty gnarly looking. I really dug that. And then the guy behind the car, he gets his mouth and arms pulled off, and then the guy in front of him gets hit by the car with extreme force, and then Evan, he hits another car, and then he goes flying. The car lands on the girl. You see her skin being pulled away piece by piece, and it looks really cool. The practical effects on this death scene. This is probably one of my favorite traps in the entire Saw franchise. As far as practical effects go, the practical effects, the skin tearing from the chair, that looks outstanding. That is incredible work from the makeup artist on this movie. So massive props to the makeup artist on all of these Saw movies. The makeup and the practical effects and the amount of effort and the attention to detail on all of these traps are incredible. The amount of effort that they go into making these deaths have that shock value, making them have realism to them. It's insane how good these traps look, and the practical effects. The people behind these movies, how have none of them got awards for their makeup and their work in the Saw franchise? That shocks me, because there was a lot of great work in this franchise that is on display. So, and you have to be extremely talented to pull off something like this. Anyways, moving on from that, and then we have the supporting group, which this is probably one of my favorite scenes in this movie, because like I love the idea of a group of jigsaw survivors who went through their trap and they lived to tell the tale of what they went through, but then also what they got back from it and how their life has improved on it. And I think for a lot of these people, I think from memory, from what a lot of them said, it was a positive impact. And there's even some familiar faces in this group. If you've been paying attention to this franchise, there's a few familiar faces who have survived the previous sequels. So, for example, Simone, which she was she had the opening trap in Saw 6 where she cut off her arm. Has a very brief little cameo in this one. She has one piece of dialogue. And then the second appearance I noticed was Addie. She was in Saw 6. She was one of the surviving characters in that movie, and she's just in the background, which, like, as I said at the beginning of this video, and I'm going to say it again, I love the attention to detail, and I love how committed these actors are to their roles and to making a consistent franchise. So yeah, I love that about Saw 7. I love that about the other sequels. And just how they brought the actors back, like, just as bodies. Like, they had no dialogue, but they were just, there to make that scene, like, feel more connected without having a replacement actor in it. And I love that in this franchise. The level of commitment these actors give, the level of commitment that the crew gives, like, it is insane. I really loved how we saw some familiar cast members from the past sequels in this one, but then we also have some fresh faces. Which this is our first time we see a new trap that we haven't seen before that did take place somewhere in this timeline, which is the lawnmower kill. I don't know exactly when this trap happened. He had other games going on all throughout this franchise, and that's where these characters come from. Which we know there can be more than one game going at once, as we learned from Saw 4's twist, where Saw 4 took place at the same time as Saw 3. So there were two games going at once. I feel like how they expanded the universe in this, and how it's not just the characters that we see. It's a whole bunch of people that have done something wrong, or they regret something, and they're put into this game for that reason. I really like the idea of a supporting group, because it allows everyone who has survived Jigsaw's games to come together in a non-judgmental area and to speak about their feelings and speak about what they lost from being in Jigsaw's games. And okay, as much as Bobby's character is a complete piece of shit in this movie and a completely unlikable character, he does do a good job at giving everyone a comfortable environment and giving them a calm environment where they feel that they can just speak anything, and they can just speak about, like, their experience. And it's just I really dig the idea of a supporting the group, and this is a first time for this franchise as well, and like that's something I feel like that is something that I really do like, because not many people do survive, and from the circled people in the supporting group, there's only a very few people that have survived and that did follow Jigsaw's rules. So yeah, I really like that idea. And then what happens after that? Okay, and then we see Chester's body laying on the investigation table, and the makeup on it and the practical effects. Like, I cannot praise the practical effects enough in this movie. Like, they look amazing. then Bobby gets captured. So he goes out to his car because his wife told him that that she will wait for him in the car, and so Bobby goes out to the car. Like all the lights are off in the car, and he looks through the windows. He can't see his wife Joyce. And behind him is Hoffman, and so Bobby gets captured and put in Jigsaw's game. This is Bobby's trial, and he's put into Jigsaw's game for lying because he wrote a book about his experience in Jigsaw's game, and what that did to him, what he learned from that, what he thought about, his emotions, thoughts, and all of that. And he also created the support group where real Jigsaw victims came to tell their story about what they lost from that, but then also what they gained from it. And Bobby's the only one, at least I can assume, that is lying, and that is making up a completely fake story and a fake trap that he was never even in, and everybody else is telling the truth. And it's like this is why Bobby's character is an unlikable character in this movie, because he makes people believe what they want to believe. Like people want to believe, Bobby was in Jigsaw's game, and he even made his wife believe and support him through this whole process. And it's like, this is why he's an unlikable character, like in this movie, and he's somehow our main character, and his, like, there are a few benefits of him being in this game, and there's the trap with the meat hooks that he talked about, on the news in his introduction, saying that that comes into play in the movie, and he's faced with the real trap, and it's no longer fiction, and it's now reality, and he has to do it in order to survive. So yeah, which I think that's a pretty cool scene there, because there's a flashback. There's a flashback in the movie where John meets Bobby at a book signing of his book Survive, and John read his book, and that's how he knows that the meat hook one is from his book, and so he's testing him with his own trap that he presented in his novel. So yeah, which I think that's a smart connection there. But yeah, let's see. So Bobby's trial, it starts with 60 minutes. So he's on a 60-minute timer to save his wife. And his first challenge is to break free from a cage, and below him are these spikes, and he has to pull this lever, which then opens the door of the cage, which then, if he wasn't holding onto anything, he would drop onto the spikes. But yeah, he holds onto the sides of the cage, and then he swings back and forth. And lands on the ground. Like it's like a decent distance away from where the spikes were. Let's see. So Hoffman used to work with Gibson, which in this movie those two are enemies now. Like Gibson is after Hoffman, and Hoffman is after Gibson. Gibson is protecting Jill, and Hoffman wants revenge on Jill for what she did to him at the end of the last movie by putting a reverse bear trap on him. So this is a revenge tale for Detective Hoffman. Let's see. There's a flashback. I'm not sure if the flashback comes later on. I'm not sure if I do have a point about that or not. Yeah, okay, right there. So yeah, I'll get to the flashback in a minute. And then we get to the second challenge. We get to the second challenge that Bobby is faced with, and what is it? Bobby he has to pull a fish hook out of one of his workers' stomach. Nina, the character's name is, and the trap is the silence circle, and this trap is almost impossible not to scream. I mean, you're pulling a fish hook from inside your stomach that is probably getting caught on like a thousand things as it's being yanked up from your stomach. I mean, it's and at the end of the trap, Bobby says, you just needed to shut up, which, like, no, there is no way. There is no way you would be able to be quiet. Like the amount of pain you would be in while that is being yanked up through your stomach. Bobby says that like it's an easy thing is to be quiet while a fish hook is being pulled from inside your stomach. It's like there is no way you would be able to be quiet. What else? John meeting Bobby. Yep, we said that. The impalement will, which this is Susie's trap. Bobby has 60 seconds on the timer to save Susie, which she is like chained up to this reversible table of sorts, and at the top of this table there's these three spikes which will pierce into both of Susie's eyes and her mouth. If Bobby doesn't like lift up, he has to lift up this weight machine while these two poles are poking him in the ribs, and he has to hold it while Susie tries to get out of the trap. Which she doesn't really do anything to really help herself. She doesn't really try to help out Bobby. Now, like in Susie's like situation, like it would be hard to help out, but like when the what is it like when the table like stops turning because of like Bobby's weight, like Susie, she just sits there. She doesn't try to like get out of the trap. So but yeah, this is a really cool trap, like practically practical effects wise. So this is a really cool looking trap. And like that's the other thing I do want to talk about is the blood effects in this movie, because this is some of the worst blood display I have seen in a horror movie in a long time. This blood looks so unrealistic. It's like pink colored blood, which last time I checked, blood was not pink. And it's just, it takes you so much out of the traps, and like the pink blood is consistent through majority of the traps in this movie. And like I don't know why the blood is pink, but in Susie's whose trap was? It wasn't Susie's, it was, which one had the fish hook? Nina. Three spikes pierced Nina in the neck. Like all this pink like blood is coming out, and it takes away so much from the shock value like of this movie, because like it's fake, and it's like there's so much like era, and especially a movie that's known for its gore and its kind of candy. The one thing you can at least deliver on is the blood, which this movie delivers on the traps and the practical effects. Like no doubt, like they are incredible in this movie. But like blood is also the blood effects is also a big part of the traps, and that's a big part of the shock value of these movies, because like it looks so realistic. And in this movie, it's just like it doesn't like you still have that shock value in this movie, but it's just like when it comes to spraying blood and all that, it's just like it being pink. It takes you out. It takes you out of the trap. I like the pink look. I don't know whose decision it was to have the blood being pink, but like it looks awful. It's like for a final movie, you could at least go full on. You could at least really make like the best traps, and you could at least do the best blood. But I don't know. This movie manages to fuck up the blood effects, which like all the other sequels have had amazing practical effects and amazing like blood effects like on display during the traps. But this movie, I don't know why it's pink. I don't know who said like pink colored blood works better than red. So like yeah, like I think it's a stupid creative choice. I don't like it. That's just my opinion. Okay, where were we up to? And then there's the hangman's trap, where the guy has this has this pillow thing like over his eyes so he can't see, and he has to step onto these wooden boards. One wrong step, and this guy is dead. So Bobby has to instruct him like where to step. He has to give him very specific instructions, like almost immediately. But he like this guy. Did I say what his name was? Kale. So yeah, this is Bobby's best friend. We saw him at the beginning of this movie, and he like Bobby has to give him immediate instructions, and he has to like take his time while moving fast as well, because he only has 60 seconds to complete this trap. Um, and then when the time comes for Bobby to throw the key to Kale, Kale misses the key, so he's basically screwed up this trap. And there's if he got the key, like I think there were around about like 9 seconds left, like there may have been a chance of survival there. But since he dropped the key, like there is no way this guy, there's no way Kale could have survived. Um, but yeah, I think that this is one of the more challenging traps, like in this movie, because you don't have your sight to see where you're going, and then on top of that, when someone has to like show you something, like you need sight, and so it's really hard to. I think just on that end, this is a really challenging trap. And so yeah. And then Gibson now, wait, is this a flash? Is this the flashback I was talking about earlier? Let's see. Yeah, so yeah, this is a flashback where when Hoffman and Gibson were working together in the police force, there's a flashback we see in this movie where Gibson responded to a distress signal, and Hoffman shoots a homeless person for assaulting Gibson, and then Gibson turned Hoffman in for manslaughter. That's the reason why Hoffman hates Gibson in this movie, is for turning him in for manslaughter. So yeah, the police traced Hoffman's location at the junkyard warehouse where Evans' trap was at the beginning of this movie. So they have to return to that location. And the mirror, what did it say? There was a message. I don't think I took any notes on what the message was, but there was a message on the mirror which gave away the clue to what was behind, this door. And so Gibson and his police crew, they go into this warehouse. This whole thing was a setup. It was all a trap set up specifically for Gibson and his police crew. And now I'm just wondering, how did they activate the machine gun? Like, did they step on like a secret board in the floor or something, or maybe activate a wire? Like, I don't know how, because like the machine gun, it looked like it popped up from the floor. So the police would have had to activate something to make that happen, because like that doesn't just happen. And then the final challenge for Bobby is to stick 2 meat hooks into his pectoral muscles, which this is the trap that was in his novel. And now he's coming face to face with it. And Bobby, he's pulling up. He sticks it into him, and then he's pulling up the chain, and he's almost up the top, and then they just rip. And then he falls back down, and there's only like 5 seconds left on the timer. But he was so close. He was so close of doing it. So yeah, but see, like that's the thing I did like about like Bobby's game is how like Jigsaw, how he made it like it's presented in his novel. Like he seems pretty confident in his novel that he can do it himself. So when it comes face to face, there's a level of fear, there's a level of adrenaline. But yeah, that was a really cool scene. And the first twist of this movie is Hoffman's been watching Gibson and his team the entire time. So like he's been watching them. So when they were at the junkyard and the car blew up, Hoffman was the one to set that off, and yeah, he's been watching them the entire time, because when Gibson enters the warehouse, he sees all these security cameras from like different angles and all of that, and then Gibson he says like he's been watching us and all of that. And then there's the hospital scene where Hoffman, he's hiding in a body bag, and then he jumps out, he just stabs this guy, and he goes on this rampage all around the hospital, just like stabbing people left and right. And this is to get to Jill. Hoffman arrives to Jill, which she's in a jail cell, and Jill stabs Hoffman when he enters the cage, and she makes a run for it, but then Hoffman catches up to her. And Hoffman slams her head on the desk like 3 times. He chains her up on a chair so she can't get away. And then Hoffman, this is the scene we've all been waiting for. He goes and gets a reverse bear trap. He puts it on Jill, and this is the long-awaited reverse bear trap kill that we have been promised time and time and time again. This is the scene that we've been waiting for this entire franchise. We've been watching every single one of these movies, waiting to see the iconic reverse bear trap that we were promised in the very first movie, and it's being used on John Kramer's wife. So I can not imagine a better kill than this. And then this is our first time actually seeing the reverse bear trap play out, and then the reverse bear trap it gets set off, and then Jill's face completely blows up. And then you see all the blood dripping. You see inside her face amazing practical effects there. That was an awesome scene. That we've been waiting for that scene since 2004, and this movie came out in 2010. So yeah, we've been waiting 6 sequels to see that kill, and it finally happened. And Hoffman goes back to Jigsaw's lair, and he sets it on fire, and then as he's walking out of frame, the warehouse behind him blows up, and then we're introduced to Dr. Gordon, which the twist here is Dr. Gordon has been working with Jigsaw since the end of the first movie. And we also So we also find out who left the letter on Detective Hoffman's desk with the words "I know who you are," which Dr. Gordon left that letter. And Dr. Gordon, he's been in the shadows helping out John Kramer this entire time. And he created the opening trap in Saw 4, where the guy's eyes were sewed shut. We see him sewing his eye shut. And John Kramer built him a leg. Okay, I like this reveal. I don't love it because I feel like Dr. Gordon coming into this movie as late as he did, like it's the end reveal. It doesn't have much of a climactic, like feel to it. It's very because since this is the last movie, we will know we won't be able to like expand on his story. So what we have as the twist here is what we will see of Dr. Gordon's story. But there is a possibility that he could return in Saw 10, if that ever does happen. At the moment, it's in early development, but there are rumors that he could come back because he's the only Jigsaw apprentice that is alive. Did we see what happened to? No, we did see what happened to Hoffman. So he got locked in the bathroom, and so Dr. Gordon, he goes back to a familiar location that he knows of, and he looks at the saw that he cut his foot with, and that brings back all the memories of him sawing it off at the end of the first movie, and then he looks at his foot, which is still there. This many sequels later, and so Hoffman. So Dr. Gordon locks Hoffman in the bathroom, and then we're basically doing the same ending as the first movie. Where John Kramer says game over. This time it's Dr. Gordon, so he closes the door. And this is the thing I don't like. When he says game over, it feels like there's an audio dub there. Like that does not sound like Dr. Gordon's voice. I'm not sure if that was just me who noticed that, but that did not sound like Dr. Gordon's voice when he said game over. That did not sound like Dr. Gordon. But yeah, like if they make Saw 10 and then they decide to bring back Dr. Gordon, we could get possibly a more expanded story for it. But at the same time, I feel like that is unlikely because this whole spiral verse that is now set up, like with the Chris Rock franchise or the Chris Rock Saw series that is going on now, that is that's not really connected to this franchise. That's kind of a franchise on its own, but it's connected to the Sawverse. So it is possible that we could see an expanding story for Dr. Gordon. But the reason why I say that's unlikely is since Spiral is a movie on its own. I don't know. I honestly don't think they will go that route. But it is possible to connect the Spiral movies to this franchise. Especially if they did bring Dr. Gordon back, there is, I'm sure, more story. There is more story and more timeline that they can connect to Dr. Gordon's character, because I would love to see more of Dr. Gordon. I really liked his twist in this movie of what we saw of him. I would like to see more, but it's just I feel like Dr. Gordon's twist in this movie, it came in way too late. It came in like the last 5 minutes of this movie. It's as they say, it's a little too late. It's a little too late. So it's if they brought it in, or if they even showed it in the middle of the movie, and there were just flashbacks throughout, that kind of expanded on why and what, and just those simple little questions. I feel like it would have made the twist more impactful. So anyways, that's just my opinion. Otherwise I do like Dr. Gordon's twist. So yeah, I have no problems with it. And yeah, I thought Carrie Elway's performance in this, I thought he was really good in this movie, and yeah, it was good to see him back. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, that is my review for Saw 3D, the final chapter. Like I've been recording for just over an hour now, so this is my longest Saw review today. There was a lot to cover. I'm sorry for the for the long review, but yeah. Anyways, guys, yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen Saw 3D, the final chapter? What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you think it was meh? Or did you really not like it? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night, or wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, bye.